Mom, Chelsea's right. These old medals are just taking up space, my son said as his fiancée dumped them in the garbage bag. I said nothing, just watched quietly. But when I discovered those worthless medals were actually rare collector's items worth a fortune, I made sure they learned the true cost of disrespecting a war hero's legacy. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, comment where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story like this. My name is Dorothy. I'm 74 years old, and this story is about the day my son's fiancée threw away my late husband's war medals like garbage. But it's also about the day she learned the true cost of disrespecting a war hero's legacy. My husband Frank served 3 tours in Vietnam. He came home with wounds that never fully healed and medals representing the bravest moments of his life. Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Combat Infantryman Badge, and others I kept in a display case in our living room. Frank died 2 years ago from Agent Orange complications. Before he passed, he made me promise. Dorothy, those medals represent every soldier who didn't make it home. Keep them safe, and someday they'll help take care of our family. I didn't understand then. I do now. My son David is 35, a good man but easily influenced. 6 months ago, he started dating Chelsea, a 28-year-old marketing executive with expensive tastes and firm opinions about everything. The first time Chelsea visited, she walked around like she was conducting an inspection. She made comments about my outdated furniture, cluttered bookshelves, and depressing photos. David, she said loud enough for me to hear, when we get married, we'll need to help your mom modernize this place. It's like living in the past. I said nothing. I figured she was young and trying to make an impression. I was wrong. She was making a plan. David proposed 3 months ago with a $12,000 ring he borrowed from his 401k. Chelsea posted detailed photos online with captions like, "He really knows my worth." After the engagement, Chelsea spent more time at my house, rearranging furniture and suggesting I downsize to senior living. Last month, she announced she'd help prepare for their engagement party at my house without asking. "We need to make this place presentable," she said, arriving with cleaning supplies and garbage bags. "David, your mother has way too much clutter." I watched her move through my house like a tornado, deciding what stayed based on her taste. My mother's china, too old-fashioned. Frank's fishing gear, smells musty. My books. Nobody reads these anymore. But the moment that still makes my blood boil was when she stopped at Frank's medal display. "What is all this military stuff?" she asked, wrinkling her nose. "Those are Dad's war medals," David said. "He earned them in Vietnam." Chelsea stared with obvious disgust. "They're so depressing. Who wants reminders of violence and war? Not exactly the vibe for our engagement party." I stepped forward. "Those medals represent your future father-in-law's service to his country. He earned them protecting people like you." Chelsea turned with that condescending smile. "Mrs. Patterson, I understand they have sentimental value, but we're creating a positive environment. War memorabilia doesn't fit our aesthetic." Aesthetic. She reduced my husband's military service to an aesthetic choice. Maybe put them in a closet during the party or donate them to a museum? David nodded. "Mom, Chelsea has a point. The medals are kind of heavy for a celebration." I looked at them both, united in thinking Frank's sacrifice was an inconvenience. "I'll think about it," I said, but I had already decided. The next morning I went grocery shopping. When I returned, the display case was gone. I found David and Chelsea in the kitchen, looking pleased with themselves. "Where are Frank's medals?" Chelsea beamed. "We took care of that. The living room looks so much more open now." "Where are the medals?" David shifted uncomfortably. "Mom, we put them in the garbage." Chelsea's right. They were just taking up space. I felt slapped. "You threw your father's war medals in the garbage?" "They were just old metal," Chelsea said dismissively. "What were you going to do with them? It's not like they're worth anything." I found them outside, thrown in with coffee grounds and food scraps. The Bronze Star Frank earned saving 3 soldiers under enemy fire. The Purple Heart for shrapnel wounds that still ached on rainy days. All treated like trash. I cleaned each medal carefully and went inside. I want you both to leave, I said quietly. Mom, don't be dramatic, David said. Get out. They left, Chelsea muttering about old people being impossible to help. That evening, I sat with Frank's medals on the kitchen table. I couldn't stop thinking about Chelsea's words. It's not like they're worth anything. On impulse, I researched Vietnam War medals online. What I found made my heart race. Authentic Vietnam-era Purple Hearts could be worth thousands. Bronze Stars with specific battle citations were even more valuable. I called a military memorabilia expert. Mrs. Patterson, he said after I described Frank's medals, what you're describing could be extraordinarily valuable. Could you bring them for evaluation? The next morning, I drove to his shop with Frank's medals carefully packed. James McCoy, a veteran who specialized in military collectibles, examined each medal under magnification and cross-referenced serial numbers with military databases. After 2 hours, he looked up amazed. Mrs. Patterson, your husband's collection is remarkable. The Purple Heart alone is worth approximately $15,000. The Bronze Star could bring $25,000. I felt dizzy. Are you serious? Completely, but this isn't even the most valuable piece. He held up a silver star. This citation from the Tet Offensive with this documentation could be worth $45,000 to the right collector. Your husband's complete collection could bring $85,000 at auction. $85,000. Chelsea had thrown away $85,000 and called it old metal. I drove home stunned. $85,000, more than David made in a year. Enough for a house down payment to pay off Chelsea's student loans or fund their entire wedding. But they'd never see a penny. Frank's words echoed. Someday they'll help take care of our family. He'd been right, but David forfeited that help when he chose Chelsea's opinion over his father's legacy. I made calls to my lawyer to update my will, to arrange a museum donation where Frank's medals would be displayed with honor. Then I called David. I need you and Chelsea here tonight, something important to discuss. They arrived an hour later. Chelsea looked irritated. If this is about the medals again, David started. Sit down, both of you. I handed Chelsea the appraisal report. You said Frank's medals weren't worth anything. She looked up from her phone with an exaggerated sigh. Right, what's your point? My point is that you threw away $85,000. Chelsea's phone fell. David grabbed the papers, his face going white. This has to be a mistake, Chelsea whispered. Not a mistake, professional appraisal. That old metal was worth more than your ring, car, and student debt combined. David stared at the papers. $85,000? Mom, are you sure this is real? Completely real and completely gone. Chelsea's face had shifted from shock to something that looked like calculation. Well, obviously we need to sell them now. I mean, if they're worth this much, we should. We? I interrupted. There is no we, Chelsea. You threw them away. You called them garbage. You convinced my son to disrespect his father's memory. But I didn't know, she protested. If I had known they were valuable, you would have cared about them. So they only matter if they're worth money? David tried to intervene. Mom, it was an honest mistake. We can fix this. If the medals are worth that much, maybe we could. Could what, David? Could suddenly respect your father. Could pretend you didn't choose her aesthetic over his sacrifice. I took out more papers. I've already made arrangements. The medals are being donated to the National Museum. They'll be displayed with Frank's name and service record. You can't do that, Chelsea shrieked. Those medals belong to the family. The family threw them away. The medals will go where they'll be honored. Chelsea turned to David. Do something. That's our money. Our money. There was the truth. David, your father saved those medals for his family's future. but his family threw them away. Chelsea completely broke down, screaming about unfairness and how David should stand up to his crazy mother. David sat there calculating what they could have bought with $85,000. Frank specifically saved those medals for David's future, I said. They could have paid for your wedding, house, children's education, but you valued appearances over legacy. They left arguing about whose fault it was. The next morning, David called. Mom, maybe we can compromise. No, David. You had your chance when they sat in my living room. You chose to throw them away. The break with Chelsea became permanent when David discovered she'd been contacting dealers, trying to reverse the museum donation. 6 months later, David and I visited New Orleans to see Frank's medals displayed. They were beautifully presented with Frank's photo, service record, and descriptions of each medal's significance. He looks proud, David said, staring at his father's photo. He would be proud of his medals being here, and proud that you came to see them. David was quiet for a long time. Finally, I'm sorry, Mom, about the medals, about choosing Chelsea's opinion over Dad's memory. I know you are. Do you think he would have forgiven me? I thought about Frank, wounded but not bitter, who never spoke with hatred about enemies, who spent his last years helping younger veterans. Your father forgave people who tried to kill him, David. I think he would have forgiven his son for being foolish.